Now, smells are a funny thing. They evoke in us some deep emotion, some feelings. We can smell something and it reminds us of that thing we were at. For me, it's the smell of tree ferns. That takes me back to holidays down at Lawn with the family. And if ever any of the guys over here, and perhaps girls now, because girls play footy as well. It's amazing. They never did in my day, I can assure you of that. They do now, though. Praise the Lord. Any footballers amongst us? All right. Or soccer. That's counted as well. Okay. Well, for me, if I smell that liniment oil that they rub on you before a game of footy, right, I'm right back in the club rooms again. Blood pumping, ready to go out there and, I was going to say crack a few heads, but maybe I shouldn't. But perhaps you might be like Peter. You see, for Peter, it's that odour of a charcoal fire that has him back to a dark and disturbing and frightening time. A time that he's tried to push away to the deepest recesses of his soul. There's a skeleton there in the closet, and he doesn't want it to come out, because it was while he was round a charcoal fire, we just saw it, warming his hands, where he denied his friend, his master, his Lord, not once, not twice, but 3 times. Let's jump forward a little bit, because in Peter's case, he's gone fishing again. See, he's denied his Lord. He failed him, and his Lord had been killed. What was he to do but go back to what he knew best? Go back to the nets, back to the fish, back to the boat, back to the Sea of Galilee. But they saw someone on the shore, and they recognised who it was. It was Jesus come back. And they ran toward him because Jesus was on the beach making a charcoal fire. He's going to cook them breakfast. And there was that smell for Peter. And his mind is taken back to that terror of a night where he denied his Lord. The passage begins with Peter and another disciple. That's probably John. And they're following Jesus after the skirmish in the Garden of Gethsemane that Stu talked with us about last week. Jesus is now bound by the Jewish authorities. And he's taken to this guy's place, Annas. Now, Annas, he used to be the high priest. Someone really important in the Jewish religion, the high priest. Now although he was a former high priest, he's still got a lot of clout. Don't worry about that. Now, the official high priest is Caiaphas. Now, that's Annas' son-in-law. Now, he was given that job by Roman authority, because usually the way it worked in the Jewish world was that the elder of the priestly family was the high priest. But of course, the Romans wanted someone in there they could manipulate. They could make do what they wanted them to do. And so Caiaphas has got the job. But to most of the Jewish community, Annas would have still been the real high priest. And so, hence, he's taken to Annas' home. Now, there would have been Roman soldiers at the garden. just to keep the peace, that's all. Jesus is now in the hands of these Jewish officials. Now, their highest court was called the Sanhedrin. Now, the president of the Sanhedrin was the high priest, so a very powerful position. And this group, this council, was made up of ancient and wealthy and very influential families. And there would have been some Pharisees and scribes, they were called. They were the ones who were the keepers of the law. They were the experts in the law of God. Those first 5 books in particular of the Old Testament. They were experts in that. But here's the irony. They aimed to execute Jesus as a lawbreaker, but if they really understood the law, they'd become Jesus' followers. The other disciple, John, he's known to the high priest. So he gets in to the house. And he has a quick word to the servant on the door. And he says, "Come on, Peter, you can come in too." Now, there would have been a group of houses like in a bit of a rectangle, and it formed a courtyard in the middle. They called an atrium. And this is where this court case is happening. Peter walks in and he gets that question, doesn't he? "You aren't one of that man's disciples too, are you?" And Peter replies, "I'm not." But hey, let's not be too quick to condemn Peter. Have you ever asked where the other 10 disciples are? They're not around anymore. They've fled. They're gone. At least Peter is there. The really great thing about Peter and his failure is that it's a failure that could have only happened to a man of great courage and loyalty. Here's a quote. "It's not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotion, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who, at best, knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who, at worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat." See, our failures can bring discouragement upon us, and discouragement paralyses our faith. That's what it does. Now, if that's maybe even how you might be feeling tonight, you might have that memory of those times where you've failed in something, or maybe even you've said to yourself, "Oh, I've let the Lord down again." Well, be encouraged by this quote from Theodore Roosevelt and be encouraged by Peter's example. At least he's there swinging his bat. He's having a crack, guys. Now, no matter what, keep swinging your bat. You may still foul a couple. That's okay. Keep swinging it. You might even hit a home run. Now, there are other circumstances